Dear learners, I am Dr. Masoom Raza from Department of Library Information Sciences, Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh. So, today we will be discussing National Library. Before discussing National Library, let me tell you we have 4 different types of libraries. One is academic library, that is basically meant to cater the academic institutions like your university library, school library, college library. Second type of library, we have public library, that is meant to cater the requirements of the public in general from all strata and all sects without any distinction in caste, creed, color and sex. And third, we have a national library that normally the national library is a copyright or deposit library, and that is basic purpose of national library is to conserve and preserve the knowledge production of a particular country. And fourth, we have a special library, and a special library basically it is meant either we call it a special because of the subject it holds, or because of the special category of user it caters to, or there can be other reasons also for calling a library a special library. We will try to discuss the national library in 3 different categories. I will talk about the clientele first. The clientele of national library, you must be knowing that national library is meant for the citizen of the country. So, by default all the citizens of the country, whether we talk about India, we talk about Canada, we talk about Japan, the citizen of that particular country will be the client of or the user of that particular national library. So, there will be no distinction, it works just operates like a public library. So, there is no distinction when I call it a national library, a huge public library or a simple public library. Number 2, we have to talk about the collection part. So, national library, when we talk about the collection, national library by virtue of being a deposit library or a copyright library, it has a right to acquire without charge, it has a right to acquire copy of each and every publication in all the languages published in a particular country. Especially if I talk about India, we have Book Delivery Act, DB Act, which we call it as. This DB Act is very much instrumental either for the copyright libraries or for the deposit libraries, and every publisher is supposed to deposit 2 copies, minimum 2 copies to all the deposit libraries as well as the national library. So, this is the foremost value addition for the national library, that whatever is being published in a country, simply a copy, single copy or 2 copies of it goes to the national library. So, acquisition is not an issue at all. So, it becomes a part of the collection and the national library is supposed to process it and keep it for the future generation. Number 2, national library even can acquire these books by purchase, anything which is published on a particular country, but not in the country, but outside the country. It has been published, just suppose any publication on India has been published not in India, but outside India. So, national library can purchase those books on the requirement of the users. This they can do. Number 3, even if somebody wants to offer a gift to a national library, that can be accepted by the national library. So, even gifts also become, because in National Library of India you must have seen Ashutosh collection, that is a huge collection. So, 86,000 copies have been preserved in the Ashutosh collection, and that is the biggest collection which anyone can give to a particular library. So, by gift also the National Library acquires books, and that is also one of the mode of acquisition. And then by virtue of being copyright library or a deposit library or by gift or by formally acquiring it, these are the different ways of acquiring, there are different ways of developing a collection. So, this is when what we talk about the collection of a national library. Third most important is basically why we have these national libraries. National libraries, when we talk about national libraries, the idea of national library was that the government should establish it, and the government should take the responsibility of developing it properly and maintaining it, because developing, maintaining the huge collection, which includes processing, which includes rendering of services, which includes preserving it, conserving it for the posterior generation, is a huge task. So, every government in their respective countries, they take the responsibility of developing, preserving it, acquiring, preserving, conserving the collections or the productions of a country. So, it is a huge repository which anybody can imagine in a country. Especially in India, we have a national library, and that first it started the history of our national library. You will be surprised to know it started as a public library. It started as a Calcutta Public Library, and it was just started by few people of Calcutta. They donated and they gifted. This is how the Calcutta Public Library started in 1835, and then slowly gradually it was able to muster support of the Britishers, and it went up to 1859, 1899 also it continued. But ultimately what happened, because of the mutiny of 1857, nobody supported the development further, and the library was it was ruined like anything. So, finally, it was again pulled up by Lord Curzon. Lord Curzon that time, he was a Viceroy of India. So, he picked up, and in 1903 it saw a new life, and it was from then it was called as Imperial Library. So, that Imperial Library went on, and a lot of things were contributed in the Imperial Library by different contributors. Britishers also, Indians also, they contributed a lot, and it was developed with the help of remnants of East India Company Library and various departmental libraries, and plus the Calcutta Public Library. Whatever the collections, all these collections were merged, and that was renamed as Imperial Library, and that went on till independence. And in 1948, the third phase of National Library was from 1948 onwards, and from 1948 onwards it is called as a National Library. So, this is a brief history of our National Library of India, and in a similar fashion the national libraries have been developed in USA. Library of Congress, you must have heard of, it is a huge library, and that is maintained by the Library of that is the Congress. US Congress maintains it, they established it, they maintained it, and still maintaining it. And in the similar fashion in UK also, we have a National Library of UK that is developed by the by an Act of Parliament in 1972, and it was established in 1973. So, the National Library becomes a responsibility of the government. As we have seen in India, as per the Article 62 of 7th Schedule of Union List, this National Library it is the owners of Government of India, Ministry of Culture, they are responsible for it. So, it started simply, first it started from the Belvedere's Palace, and you will be surprised to know the huge Belvedere's Palace, that is Viceroy's building, that was because of the way how they are acquiring and the huge quantum which they are acquiring. So, Belvedere's Palace was left with no space, with later on which led to the development of a new Annexi building, that was 7-storied building with a huge collection. Even that was even left with no space. And the third phase was in the same campus. In the same campus in Alipur, you will find in Calcutta, especially in Calcutta, you will find the third building was inaugurated, that was Bhasha Bhavan. So, right now the things are operating from Bhasha Bhavan, and in our National Library campus you will find a very good conservation preservation laboratory also. So, they take care of any book, any book or magazine or a serial which needs treatment, that is sent to the preservation conservation laboratory, and that laboratory treats those books. But the best part is, as I told you, the Book Delivery Act is a biggest weapon for these national libraries. They do not have to spend too much on it, on the acquisition part, because the Book Delivery Act, this privilege enjoyed by this national library, means they get a huge collection in all the languages, and in all from all the places, all the states. So, ultimately they have to do a lot in organization also. In organization and processing becomes a huge task. Just suppose if I am acquiring books in 18 languages or 20 languages, so I have to have that much of processing sections also, that much of divisions also required to process books published in Kannada, books published in Tamil, the books published in Marathi, books published in so many other languages. So, that way so many processing divisions are required, and that is a huge task, processing it, classifying it, cataloging it, and then that keeping it on the shelf, and then giving the services also. So, this is what our National Library is doing it. It is a huge collection and huge gifts. It has received the huge gifts also in terms of I told you the biggest gift was given by Ashutosh Mukhopadhyay, and he has donated about 86,000 units. So, that is a huge thing which our National Library owns right now. So, this is how the requirement of National Library is. And then coming to the third part, that is the services part. So, what a National Library is expected to do? National Library, as I told you, National Library is a privilege where a research scholar, a teacher or a student or any public, anybody can visit without any, because I told you, being the member of or being the citizen of the country, anybody is anybody can enjoy the benefit, or anybody can enjoy the services rendered by the National Library. So, finally, what happens is when, especially in the National Library, I told you this is not a lending library. Not a lending library means they will not be lending books, means issue return service will not be there. In other libraries you will find issue return service is there, that is a lending, basically a lending library, but in case of National Library, being a copyright library or a deposit library, it does not provide the lending service. So, minus lending service you will find the rest of the services in the National Library, means you require any advisory service, that will be available for you, you require any bibliographic service, that will be available for you, you require any information service, that will be available for you, you require any kind of reference service, that will also be available for you. But thing is, the user, especially in our country, they have to take the membership of 1 day. You take the membership, pay a minimum of 10, 15, 20 rupees, something is whatever the membership fee for 1 day is. You become the member of that library for 1 day, go to the library and enjoy all the privileges which a normal citizen or a normal member is enjoying. So, for any research scholar, if you are not able to get any literature or anything from anywhere, so National Library is the best place. You visit National Library and you will be able to find those publications which are not available at most of the places. Or one advantage I told you, one of the biggest advantages with the National Library is that National Library, it enjoys the privilege of Book Delivery Act, which was initiated in 1954. Later on, a new word was also added in it. In 56, it was book, and even the serial was also, word serial was also added in 1956. So, from that year onwards, all the serials, means all the newspapers, all the magazines in all the languages, even they are supplied to the National Library free of cost. When all the books in all the languages from all the states, plus all the newspapers, all the magazines in different languages, they are supplied to the National Library or the deposit libraries free of cost. So, cost is not an issue, but the more important is the processing part, how to process it and how to organize it, and then how to render services out of it. If anybody is looking for a document, if just suppose a National Library is having it, but if it is not able to instantly provide you the service or tell you give you the bibliography, that is it means it will not be of any use. So, the National Library's major objective is to prepare a bibliography, which we normally call it as national bibliography. That is the biggest task of any national library of a country. Then again the question is what a national library is, national bibliography is. So, national bibliography, when I say national bibliography, is all the books or all the literature published in a country in irrespective of any language. Means books published in all these languages, or books published in a particular year in all the languages from all the states, that has to be the part of that bibliography. Bibliography is basically the compilation of books, and when I call it a national bibliography, means my national bibliography of 2020 should include all the books published in India in all the languages. So, just imagine what will be the quantum or what will be the size of a national bibliography. So, just the compilation of national bibliography takes about more than a year, and is a continuous process, and the time lag is also about 6 months. Just suppose I am looking for a bibliography of 2020. So, I will not be able to get exactly in January 2021, probably it takes about 6 months for compilation also. So, that compilation takes about 6 months, and this bibliography will be available somewhere in June 2021. But the best part is this national bibliography is the best source for acquisition. Best source of acquisition, why I am saying? Because it includes the bibliographic description of all the books published in your country in the last year, in the preceding year. So, any library can make use of this list, and they can take help for the acquisition of new books in their library, because the budget constraint is everywhere, whether you talk about academic library or you talk about public library or you talk about any special library. Thing is, before purchasing I should know what is available in the market. So, best thing is if I go through the bibliography, a national bibliography, which includes everything published published in my country. If I just go through it, I will be able to find out, or I will be able to identify what I need for my library or what I need for my clientele. That is important. So, that can be identified, that can be purchased, and that way you can save your money also. Instead of purchasing books on anything without knowing what is published and what is available. So, you know exactly what is available, and bibliography can be one of the best source for acquiring books in a library. And number 2, the job of National Library is also to publish the retrospective bibliographies. When I say retrospective and current bibliographies, retrospective I mean last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So, even the compilation of those bibliographies, what has been published in the last 10 years, 20 years, that is also a huge task. So, the national libraries, they are also supposed to publish retrospective bibliographies along with the current bibliographies. Especially if I talk about the Indian context, we have this national bibliography is known as INB, Indian National Bibliography, and there is a huge bibliography which includes everything published in your country in all the languages. So, it is a huge source and a huge you can say tool for acquisition, which any library can make use of it. Number 3 most important service which a national library is giving is, I told you, conserving and preserving the knowledge for the posterior generation, for the coming generation. Conserving and preserving means they need to have laboratories, they need to know all the tools and techniques for preserving the books. So, they have all the national libraries, they are supposed to do. Means just suppose I am talking about a book published in 1940, the page, maybe the page or maybe the little usage also on a daily basis, the pages, the quality of typography or maybe anything, if it gets damaged, the job of National Library is to restore it, preserve it, so that it remains intact for the coming generation. If maybe suppose in 2050 somebody wants to see what was the newspaper published in 1950 or what was the newspaper of 1948, you will be able to see, because now what the latest technique they have adopted, they are going for the digital preservation also. So, digital preservation means they will digitally preserve all the newspapers and all those articles, including books or magazines, which are either getting brittle or maybe there is a apprehension that probably it will be destroyed in the due course of time. So, even the digital preservation has also started. So, all these techniques Means ultimately the objective of National Library was setting the objective, basic objective of National Library was to conserve it, preserve all the productions of the country, all the productions of your country in terms of your books and knowledge, that has to be preserved for the posterior generation, that they are doing it. Along with that, I told you it is not a lending library, but all other services, which includes your advisory service, your reference service, your information service or bibliographic service, those services have to be given by the National Library. Number 3, most important thing I told you, these national libraries will publish the national bibliographies, all the national libraries, whether we talk about India, we talk about Pakistan, we talk about Japan, Canada, all they are publishing their national bibliographies. So, national bibliographies include the complete details of a document published by a publisher. So, this is one of the privilege of your National Library. And then most important, I told you the National Library, they are basically the depositories of knowledge or repositories of knowledge, and they are doing all these activities which other libraries are doing it. Means we talk about just suppose we talk about our National Library of India. We have even we have a children's section in National Library of India. So, means national, it does not mean that a National Library will allow only the citizens, those who are above 14 or above maybe studying in college or university or something like that. No, it maintains that even the children, they have to be they should be got at a young age. So, they have a children's section also, and even the kids from 5 years onwards, they are allowed to come to the National Library, and little collection, not from the process of books acquired through DB Act. Those books are, because those books are especially meant for preservation. Some other books can be kept in the children's section, and those small kids, when they make use of it, they become habitual of using the library. They start understanding how to sit in a library, how to make use of the library, what a catalog is, how to make use of classification, how to make use of catalog, and how to sit in a library. So, this is the privilege of our National Library. So, then coming to again to the services of National Library. National Library, I told you, it offers a reference service also. It even offers, sometimes you will find the little translation is also available. If you require some translation service, that also can be given. Information services, I told you, it gives you the bibliography, it gives you the reference, short range reference or a long range reference service also is given by the National Library. So, these are some of the things which are very important for a National Library. Then one more thing which is important for a National Library is, National Library is basically meant for public, and especially the citizen of the country. So, especially when we talk about the National Library, we have to be very careful what we are acquiring, for whom we are acquiring, and the National Library there is also a privilege that it can be used by any citizen. There is no distinction of caste, color, creed, and it can be used just like a public library, and it has all the collections. It has all the collections which has been published by your country, means your complete publication output is available in the National Library. And most important is, your National Library is supposed to preserve and conserve for the coming generation. So, one has to be very careful. Any scholar, any teacher, or anybody, researcher cannot complete the research until and unless he or she visits the National Library, because sometimes some documents which are not available anywhere in any library, either you talk about academic library or any other library, that must be available in the National Library. This is what we presume, and ultimately your research ends, finally ends in the National Library. Your search, what you are searching for and you are not able to get from anywhere, your search ends in National Library. This is how you can say. So, that way National Library becomes more important in the today's context. National Library is also, I told you, is just, when it operates just like a public library, it is also a place where which promotes cultural interaction, or basically the cultural heritage is also preserved. Normally, just suppose especially in our National Library, you will find a huge manuscripts. So, manuscript collection is a huge task, which is not possible until unless the local people or the national there is no resource pooling at the national level. So, your national library is also supposed to preserve the manuscripts or anything anything which is of such a use, of such a national importance. Even those things are preserved in the national libraries. So, the national libraries you will find very important things, especially in our National Library of India, you will find very important things which are preserved in the form of manuscripts. So, we have a separate division for that, and those manuscript collection, there is a huge manuscript collection. Researchers from different subjects, different areas, they can make use of those manuscript collection, and this is how they can it can be more fulfilling for the researchers. So, even when it operates like a public library, so national libraries, they have a complete cultural hub, is a complete cultural hub. You will find different people from different society, different associations. They can just have a place for meeting and discussing things. So, it can be a very it is a very useful cultural hub also, where meeting people and discussing various things, or having any social programs, or promoting some activity, social activities, those things are taken up. So, let me sum up this. The national libraries are basically established by the government of the respective countries. That is means the government will take the responsibility of establishing it, developing it, maintaining it, where organizing, processing, rendering services, everything is the task of the government of the respective country. Number 2, the important thing about the national libraries, anybody from the respective country, those who are the citizen of the country, they can make use of the national library. So, you should not be afraid that although distance matters, because if just suppose we talk about the national library, one important thing about the national library, I told you national library can be categorized in different types. Means we can have national library either on the basis of subject also, just suppose national science library, national agriculture library, these are on the basis of subjects, or we can have national library on the basis of very comprehensive basis. That is, just suppose we say National Library of India, that is Calcutta, that is on a very comprehensive basis. You find everything, means collection of all the subjects. Then sometimes we have a national library on the basis of clientele also, National Library for blinds. We have national library on the basis of places also. So, national libraries basically earlier it was planned on a comprehensive basis, but later on the government of India felt that we can have on the basis of subject also. So, National Library of Science, National Library of Science and National Science Library and National Library of Agriculture, you will find, and they are housed in Delhi. So, that way any citizen from any country, they can make use of the national library without paying any charge. It just simply works like a public library. It is a huge public library, you can say, of a country, which houses everything, all the collection, all the publications, all the magazines, all the books published so far. And number 3, the most important part of the national library, I told you, is the publication of bibliographies, national bibliographies. That is an important tool for the acquisition. And along with that, it publishes the retrospective bibliographies also. So, retrospective bibliographies can be consulted any time to see what is the complete holding of a national library. Just suppose if I find 50 years collection, 50 years collection has been compiled, I can see what is housed in the National Library of India. So, complete books, complete detail of books and magazines which are available in National Library, that I can find from retrospective bibliographies. So, it offers all the services, it offers you advisory, it offers you information, it offers you information service, it offers you all the services which you are expecting except lending service, because lending service is not possible just because being a deposit library, it cannot offer a lending service. Just suppose books are misplaced, there is no solution to that. So, other libraries can take the risk, but especially the National Library, being a deposit library, it cannot take the risk of lending books to the user. User can come to the library, make use of it, take the photocopying service, means that we call as reprographic service. They can take the Xerox facility, they can take help of the Xerox facility, and whatever they need, they can make use of the collection in a much better way. Let me tell you one interesting thing about National Library. National Library, we can have different national library, not only on a basis of comprehensive basis, but we can have national library of different types. We can have national library on the basis of user also, we can have national library on the basis of subject also, we can have national library on the basis of place also. So, just for example, I am giving you the National Library of Calcutta, National Library of India, especially Calcutta, that is on a comprehensive basis. You will find subject books on all the subjects, you will find manuscripts also, you will find other things also. So, that is on a very comprehensive basis. But let me give you one more example of a national science library that is housed in Delhi. So, that is having only the collection of sciences. So, it becomes sometimes very difficult to differentiate between a special library and a national library, but it is a national library because it enjoys the benefit of DB Act 1954. So, all the books published on sciences, a copy, this especially the National Science Library will be getting a copy free of cost, and it is a deposit library. So, it has to keep it, it has to maintain, it has to publish a bibliography, it has to maintain, and it has to supply a copy to the government also, Ministry of Culture. So, that way we have even National Library on the basis of type of a user also, the National Library for blinds. So, again it becomes difficult to differentiate because we have a special library on the basis of user and we have a national library on the basis of user. So, when the complete collection is meant for blinds, so all the things which are specially published for the blinds or all the productions in the country specially meant for the blinds, that becomes a part of National Library. So, in the same way we can have a National Library on the basis of name of the place also, National Library of Wales, National Library of Canada, National Library of Japan. So, these are different types of national libraries. Let me conclude. The National Library, as I told you, is a library which is established by the respective government of the country, and it is meant for the people of the country. Any citizen of a particular country is entitled to become the member of a national library and enjoy all the privileges, all the benefits of a national library. Means he can enjoy the privileges, means in terms of reference service, whatever he wants to avail, a user wants to avail, and whether it is an information service or a bibliographic service or a reprographic service or any service which he feels. So, National Library is providing all the services except lending service. A lending service is not permissible because it being a deposit library, lending service cannot be given, and it is one of the condition of a deposit library. And once a library is designated as a deposit library, then it cannot provide the lending service, but it remains only a referral library. Means you can come to the library, you can just refer you can consult the books, any manuscript or any collection, magazine, whatever it may be, you can just refer it. If you want Xerox facility, you can enjoy the benefit of reprographic service. If you want anything bibliographic service, you can enjoy the benefit of bibliographic service. You want any information service, that can be provided to you. So, that way all the services will be available to the citizen of a particular country free of cost. There is no charge for it, and you enjoy the benefit. Any scholar, you just imagine a scholar or a teacher, those who are not able to get a publication or those who are not able to get an article or a book elsewhere, they will be able to find in a national library of their country. So, this is one of the privilege which a national library or the citizen of the country enjoys from a national library. So, this is one thing. And number two, the national library, job of national library is to publish a current bibliography and a retrospective bibliography. That is the most fundamental thing, where you can see the country's output in terms of, just suppose a retrospective bibliography of the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So, at any point of time you want to see what was the production of your country or what your country has produced in terms of knowledge. You can see the bibliography of a national library, and you will come to know what your country is producing in terms of knowledge. Or every year, I told you the current national bibliographies are published by their respective countries. So, in a year, if I want to see what is my literary output of a country, simply I do not have to do anything. I have to simply get a copy of a national bibliography, and I can see what else has been published in different languages and different subjects. I can see the productivity in terms of subject also, I can see the productivity in terms of language also. So, that is the beauty of it, and this INB or any national bibliography of any country, it becomes a good source, for acquisition also. So, it is considered as a best acquisition tool for any library, means whether it is academic library or a public library or a special library. So, that national bibliography, because it contains all the details of all the books published, in a country. So, it is a privilege, or it is one of the most important tool for any type of library. Thank you very much, friends. I hope you will enjoy this lecture.